seen in having. But faith is not in having. Faith is in being. See, a man who has faith, he becomes a believer. So faith then begins to define him. It doesn't matter what his circumstances are. You cannot judge my faith by what I drive. You can't judge my faith by the size of my house. You cannot judge my faith by what I wear. And it seems to me that we are projecting God in a manner that people feel like if I don't have this or have that, then I am lacking in my faith. And I can take it further. The psychological debilitation that causes is for people to feel guilty about what they don't have, believing that they're cursed by God. I have what I have because I make more money than most folk, not because I have more faith. We should understand this. You see, it's this faith then that identifies you with God. This faith understands a yes, but it is faith that understands no. It is faith that understands not yet. It is faith that understands that God can bless you financially, but if he doesn't bless you financially, that does not diminish your relationship with God. Oh, I feel it here. Browning says, and I quote, he says that the totality of man's capacities should be considered in the broadest sense precisely as rational capacities, unquote. You see, if you listen very carefully to the presentation of your day, you will walk out of church and feel like it's all about things. And I think what happened was we became more affluent and God blessed us in a financial way. And because we are fastidious and because we like nice things, to be comfortable with buying what we buy, living where we live, we have allowed the message to go forward with a psychology that is debilitating to the people we preach to. More than any other ethnic group, black children believe that they can be successful without an education. And I think the church did that to them. There's no hocus pocus about making money. You've got to have a purpose. You've got to have a plan. You've got to have a method. You've got to co-create with God. You just can't walk out and speak it. I wish I could talk to you. You see, God was the one who spoke it. But what he did when he spoke it, he put a seed in everything that he spoke. And the only way for you to co-create with God is not to speak it. It's to pick up the seed and plant it. I wish I could talk to somebody. You see, the balance then, there's something else here, and that is you have to balance human and divine causality in the creation of faith. And make sure that you don't obscure the fact that faith is fully determined by the Word of God. That's why it's important for us when we preach that we don't preach ourselves or preach our attitudes or our philosophical positions. It's important that when we preach the Word of God, because faith is not significant if it's built on my philosophy. Faith is not significant if it's built on my opinion or my point of view. But faith is only powerful when it's built on the Word of God. Because it's the Word of God that is the very ground out of which faith determines the whole man. And when faith comes, it comes with the power of transforming the individual to the point where you don't identify any longer with other people's definitions of you. My faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God, which means when the Word comes forth into my soul, it moves into my spirit and it causes me to reach back for that same God. Man brings nothing to the table by which he can attempt to validate the Word of God, or he can't even judge the Word of God, because when God speaks his Word, he conveys to me thought he should deal with God. And God turned around and turned him over to a reprobate mind. He decided to put God on trial, and God said, I'll give you a mind that can't even recognize what a man is for and what a woman's for. Don't even put me on trial. I'll give you a mind that can't even think its way out of a paper bag. I wish I could preach this thing. The word is its only judge. You cannot validate by appealing to how you feel, and you cannot validate faith by what makes you act the way you act. You validate God simply by God's own word, because that's what God does. God cannot deny himself. It ain't about you. It's not about me. It's about God doing his will in the universe. Oh, I feel something pushing me now. You see, I'm afraid because we live in a time where everybody is seeking certainty and to place the believer above the word of God. And that's what's happening now, is that people are giving the impression that if I just believe a certain thing, God has to move. And we have now placed the believer above the word of God. And that's what's happening all around us. And that is, people have 1, 2, 3, 4 to show you how to get from point A to point B, and 5, 6, 7. I give you 7 methods. As if I simply have faith, I tie God up. But what about God's will? Is that negated because I have faith? I can make him do what he doesn't want to do. The devil is a liar. Oh, God, I feel it here. Don't you judge yourself another day on what you wear and where you live. Because the same God of the suburb is the God of the inner city. I feel it here. And you don't have to leave the inner city to meet God. You can live in a one-room shack all your life and dance beside somebody else in the heavenlies. I feel like having church. I'm going to have some church. It's critical now because we understand that God will not deny himself. So faith now drives me, and it becomes the act of the whole personality in any circumstance, and not the circumstance that determines the relationship. It's the faith and the fact that I identify with God that determines the relationship. Job was just as godly rich as he was broke. It didn't change anything about his relationship because it was simply consequential. It was simply circumstantial. And I don't serve God based on circumstance. I serve God based on relationship. All right. It's critical to understand this. I remember when I was married and had some financial difficulty early in my marriage, and I moved to go work with my dad, and my dad was going to pay me, but you know what happened. And so consequently, I said to my wife, I said, let's move into my father's other side. He's got a duplex, and I want to get out of this place that I'm ended up in. I got rid of my Corvette, all the things I had. I want to get out of here. Let's go over there. She said, no, I don't want to go. I want to be with you, but I don't want to live there. As long as I'm with you, it don't matter where we live. I hope you get what I'm saying. As long as you're with God, it doesn't matter what you have. Because if I got God, I got enough to get through. Oh, I feel like preaching. Now, I'm not preaching this because I'm hurting financially, because I got all that set. I'm preaching it because it's the truth. You have got to have enough God in you to have enough sameness and continuity regardless of what's going on around you. And when a person has faith in God, God becomes the shock absorber. My faith will absorb the shock. Oh, I feel it here. That means I saw the commercial with the cab and the pickup truck, and on the bottom the wheels were running over some tracks. And as the wheels were coming over the tracks, it was breaking the bulbs that was set on both sides of that track.